Funding has been made possible in part by the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, Department of State, New Jersey Historical Commission, Department of State, and the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners through the Cumberland County Cultural and Heritage Commission.
Welcome back to the Bridgeton Beacon. I have the pleasure this afternoon of sitting down at the Bridgeton Library. We are on the second floor in one of the oldest parts of the building. And I'm having a conversation today with Adaria Armstrong, who is the Director of Youth Services. Adaria, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Meg. I'm so happy.
I am so happy too. We tried scheduling this a few times, and here we are. So, without further ado, you are the Director of Youth Services for the Bridgeton Free Public Library.
So they say.
Self-proclaimed traveling Wilbury, which we will get into in a few minutes. But first of all, why don't you jump in and tell me a little bit about yourself, how long you have been here at the Bridgeton Free Public Library, and what you do.
Well, alrighty then. I've been here since the beginning of August in 2019. And I came here because I answered a job advertisement for a children's librarian. And I wanted to get myself back down to South Jersey. I really love it down here. I have a lot of roots down here. Even though I was brought up in North Jersey, I wanted to return to my roots. And I've been working in libraries for about 10 years. I started out as a page in my hometown library, and I consider my hometown to be Leonia, New Jersey, 07605. That's up in Bergen County. It's probably about a quarter of a mile from the George Washington Bridge. And my formative years were spent in North Jersey and in Manhattan, where both of my folks worked in FM radio during the 70s. And so I had that radio culture imbued in my DNA from a very early age. I was the radio station's mascot. I used to be on the air from the time I was 6 years old going, WPLJ, New York's best rock, always in stereo, 95.5 FM. The DJs loved to have me in because I could say
great.
Things that really, but my little helium voice at 6 years old. And I loved being on the air. I bothered those DJs like you wouldn't believe.
You asked to have this as an audio interview,
that's right.
So now it's all making sense to me.
It's all clear now.
So you joined the Bridgeton Library just before COVID hit.
Oh yes, we had a good 6 months, and then COVID shut us down. Like right around this time in 2020, it was just before St. Patty's Day, I remember. And we got a lot of things accomplished in those 6 or 7 or 8 months previous to that. But man, that put a big hurt on our programs. The people didn't want to come out. People were, we all know what COVID did to us all. People being homeschooled, people working from home, if they could have the luxury of doing that.
But people still had their books.
Yeah, they did. And we actually shut down. The building was shut down from, I think, a day or two before St. Patrick's Day. So right before March 17th in 2020. And we were shut down through the end of June. So we were down for a couple of months.
So what did you do during that time frame?
Well, I would come into the library once in a while to water the plants, get the mail, do some work from my office. And our director at the time, Linda, would do the same thing. So on days that she wasn't here, I would come in so that we both didn't have to come here every day. Just to sort of justify, getting paid, which we're very thankful for. The city of Bridgeton maintained us for those couple of months that we were shut down. Yeah, it was rough. It was really rough. And to try to swing back into it, our numbers are still down from that time.
When you say your numbers are down, do you mean
Patrons
donations or patrons that come in?
That come
How
in.
do you track that?
There is a device at the door that goes off every time somebody walks in and out. And that automatically gets calculated, and we track that throughout the year, as well as, report it to different agencies that we're applying to funding for. And, then we could tell how many people have come to the library in the last year, and how those numbers are down. And also numbers are down for our programs.
Mm-hmm.
We usually have a storytime program during the week, and I'll be darned if I've had anybody even bother to come in. And I changed it from Tuesday to Saturdays, because who has the luxury of being home on a Tuesday? What mom is not working? What caregiver is not at work?
Mm-hmm.
So I changed it to Saturdays, like, oh, well, that's definitely going to bring people in, come in. And it's been spotty at best.
Well, you've had some really neat events. I mean, you have your children's storytime hour, but I've also seen that you've had authors come in.
Yeah.
You have, I went downstairs and took some video of some programming that you have coming up. So take a few minutes perhaps and give me some highlights on some of the neat programming that you've had, and also some of the fun activities that you have planned coming up this spring and this summer.
Excellent. Thank you. In an effort to bring people in on purpose, rather than just hope they come in for a regular program, I've developed a number of special programs throughout the year that have been very well attended. And we have history programs, like author talks. We have environmental stewardship programs where I work with the local schools, and a lovely lady named Barbara Wilczynski, who I'm sure you all know. And she and I coordinate together to bring classes of kids here purposefully. And I coordinate with my environmental friends out there in the sector and bring about 6 or 7 of those folks in. And they impart their wisdom and information to these kids about stewardship, about careers, about education in the green sector, and why it's so important, because, we're handing off the planet to them, and, we're not in such great shape, and everyone can do better. And this is the type of information and education that I try to impart to young people and to youth, so that they know that somebody actually cares about the planet and cares to live simply, cares about nature and other critters, and that they can do that too. There is hope. I try to offer our youth hope, because there's a lot of apathy out there about everything, especially since COVID, but just in general about everything. And so that's a wonderful program that's been very well attended for the last 3 years. We have people here like CU Maurice River, the Atlantic County Utilities Authority, the Authority over there in Millville. We have the Cohansey River Watershed Association. We have Pinelands Alliance coming all the way down here to teach kids about how beautiful the pinelands are and how precious a resource that is. And we also have rangers from the Belle Plaine State Forest and other local state forests coming and giving information to Bridgeton students who might not even know that 5 miles away they can go for a beautiful hike. 1 mile away in the Bridgeton City Park, they can, enjoy that. It's such a beautiful park. I try to get out and walk a couple times a week. And
we're lucky to have that
We're
park.
so lucky to have that park. It's so beautiful. So, and other programs that we have during the year would be, I have a summer reading program, and that could be from, babies through adults. I worked with the Century 21 Pathways students last year, and it's called the 21st Century Pathways students, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And those are kids that are working with a program that feeds them and has activities for them throughout the month of July and part of August, where, their families may be working, can't afford childcare, whatnot. So we had about 6 programs last year where kids came to the library, or I went to them, bringing them science programs, environmental programs, reading programs, summer reading, all kinds of good stuff.
I jokingly said in the beginning of this interview that you were a self-proclaimed traveling Wilbury, and you had mentioned to me when I stopped in last week that at least at some points, you've gone out to the community, which I think is really great. And that's what I wanted to touch upon, was this idea of the partnerships that the Bridgeton Free Public Library has with these other organizations that you mentioned, them coming to you, but you also going out to them. And it takes a connection both ways, right?
It really does. Outreach is extremely important, especially for a library that might not have the best reputation about, people might not want to come into the library because of so people with mental health issues, people with drug and alcohol issues that sort of frequent the library has tended to keep patrons away. So I go out into the community and offer our services remotely, and if you will, with not only with story times, which I go out to schools and do, but with different programs. And I've developed some very lovely and wonderful working relationships with teachers from K through 12, all throughout Bridgeton, but also in the wider area, Cumberland Regional High School, the Woodruff School up in Upper Deerfield around Seabrook, and the Fairfield Township School out along Route 49. I've brought those folks here, and I've also taken programs out to them just to try to keep it going. Another wonderful program that we have for adults and kids is we have a Japanese Culture Day, which I started about 3 years ago, and we're having it again this May. I don't have a date locked down yet, but it's going to be in early May. And the lovely ladies of the Seabrook Dance Troupe come here and they do their dances. They invite people to come up and have dances. We have free sushi and other Japanese snacks. We have origami and craft table for the kids. We have kimono displays. We have a fashion show. We also have a cultural explanation of what kimono is and what that means. And last year they just outdid themselves with tables of artifacts and ephemera from Japan. And a lot of the folks that are in the dance troupe are Japanese American, and they're descendants from the folks that came to work for Mr. Seabrook out of the internment camps from, as a result of World War II. And one of my uncles was one of those gentlemen. His name was Gene Nakata. They called him Knocker. He came here with his family from one of the internment camps in California in, I'm going to say, the late 40s. And my great-great aunt and uncle, Anna and Frank Morano, came from Philadelphia to work for Mr. Seabrook with their young daughter, Marie, also in the late 40s. Marie and Jean met, fell in love, and they got married at the church up here on Pearl Street in 1955. And they didn't have a family of their own, but they stayed together. And when I was born and my cousins were born in the mid to late 60s, we'd come over here from Philadelphia because that's where I was in Philly till I was 6 before we went up to New York. And we would visit Uncle Gene and Aunt Marie and Aunt Anna at Seabrook. And I'd just be amazed, like the corn and the...
So you've had a connection to this community since you were a little girl.
And not only that, but my grandmother and my grandfather, my mom's mom and dad, were Italian migrant farm workers that would come over here from Philadelphia and work from what they call strawberries to potatoes. So that's like May through October. And they met on a farm near Dorothy. And they named my mom Dorothy, actually. But I think that was more for the Follow the Yellow Brick Road. And so if those folks hadn't met here, working here, which their parents had come and to work here, for years, I would say my family has been working in this area farm-wise from about the 19-teens until about the 1950s. So that was another connection that I had with this area.
That's so wonderful. I speak with so many people who have told me similar stories about their parents and their grandparents and how they met and connected through places like working at Seabrook or working at other places in the area. And so it's wonderful to hear that. And it's wonderful to hear how you've now come back to this area
after
and
so
are
long.
now contributing back to the community. So
yeah, it's pretty
that's just
cool.
fantastic.
Oh, let me mention one thing, Meg. I'm sorry. I know you're about to ask me something, but I also wanted to mention that in November, we have our indie author event. And how that came about was our previous 2 directors ago, Linda just handed me the project. This was in 2020. And we hadn't had anyone here and because of COVID and whatnot. So I think the November of 2021 Indie Author event was the first actual program that we had here, due to COVID.
Who did you have? What authors did you have? Do you recall?
There are some local authors. Wanda Albizu is one. She's a children's author. We had Flavia Alaya. She wrote a book about the nail house. We have Zeus Cruz. He's a poet from Millville. And a bunch of other local authors who I can't think of at the top of my head. But Stephen Goldham, he's a writer. He wrote a wonderful book about the Greenwich tea burning. And Hal Taylor, who is not only an author, but he's an illustrator, and he's illustrated so many wonderful things about the Delaware River and the native Lenape, just remarkable authors. But then one of my coworkers and I attended the Collingswood Book Fair last October, or maybe it was September, and I wanted to get some new blood for the third annual Indie Author event. So I went around, I talked to some authors. I told them that, there's no charge for a table. Would you come down to our humble little library and make the Indie Author event, that much more with your presence? And we had about 7 or 8 new authors, just remarkable individuals. And I said, the only price to pay, because usually when they go to these author events, they have to pay a table fee, and I would never charge anybody to come here and promote their books. So I said the only price for admission is if we could please have one of your books donated to our library, or your collection of books donated to our library. And everyone agreed, and now we have all these wonderful books, from kids' books to adult, great authors.
Is that Indie Author Day something you're going to have again this coming year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Talking, you have you have so many different programs. How can people find you? How do they know what the programming is? I mean, for example, I noticed downstairs that you have a flyer for, is it a teen poetry contest?
Yes.
So you have so many different things going on that we could talk about, but how can people find out?
Well, they can go to our website, and that's bridgetonlibrary.org. And we usually have the upcoming events posted right there on the front page of the website.
You're also on Facebook?
We're on Facebook.
And you have a newsletter.
And we have a newsletter. Okay. So I'm constantly posting our events on Facebook, updating them, and also revisiting them once they've happened so people can see pictures of the event. And our newsletter, if you want to sign up for the newsletter, just call us, give us your email, and we'll, it's Constant Contact. That's the software that we use for our newsletter, and it's monthly. And you won't get anything else from us except for occasionally I send out like an email blast for an event like the week before, not so you don't have to go plow through the whole newsletter to remember what was happening. But here's an event that's happening next week. Please join us, and I'll send that out.
You're a chief cook and bottle washer here. How many full-time employees and part-time employees does the library have right now?
Okay, well, we have 2 full-time employees. There's a library assistant who is now a library associate because she just started library school, and me. And I've been, I studied at Wayne State University. I did an online program. And because it was
in library sciences?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I have my master's degree in library and information science. That's where the MLIS comes from. But I also have a previous master's degree in social and cultural anthropology. And I actually went to Stockton when it wasn't a university, when it was still a college back in the early 90s. And I have a double major, sociology and anthropology, from that school. And that's what sort of gave me the impetus to get a master's degree in that field. And I worked in the field of anthropology for about 15 years while I was living in California.
Oh, tell me briefly what you did out there.
I moved out there in 96, a year after I graduated, because I worked for a year to save some money and because I was accepted to graduate school in San Francisco. And once I hit San Francisco in 96, it was like the the .com boom was happening, and then I witnessed the bust as well. And I really should have gotten into either tech or real estate, because I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. But no, I pursued my anthropology, social and cultural anthropological degree, while I also became familiar with the local reggae scene, which was pretty heavy, meaning a lot of people like to come through from Jamaica and play at different venues in San Francisco. And as a fan and a scholar of music from Jamaica, I was thrilled. I became involved with that as a performer, and I ended up touring the world with a bunch of different reggae bands and the country and the whole West Coast.
Wow,
and all
that could
stuff.
be the subject of a whole
For
other
about 8
that would be a
years.
whole other conversation.
It was another life, I tell you.
That's fantastic.
Lots of experience doing many different things. And speaking of DJs, I didn't just, as a cute little kid, say the call letters for the radio station my folks worked for, but I went on to be a DJ for 4 years at Stockton on WLFR.
It's a great station.
It's a lovely station. I loved it to death. Lake Fred Radio, woohoo, 91.7. And then when I was out in California, I was a DJ at a local radio station called KGGV, which always sounded like a spy ring to me, KGGV. And that was wonderful. And then when I came back to New Jersey in 2009, after being in California for about 13 years, I was very thrilled to be accepted onto the DJ roster at WFDU, which is TNEC, which is Fairleigh Dickinson University, which is a very well-known radio station up in North Jersey. And I was on there for maybe about 2 years while I was working in libraries. So I managed to exercise my creative yayas in performing and music while maintaining other careers and interests as well.
I can understand that. I can relate to that. It sounds also like you are a lifelong learner and a lifelong teacher, which is really the hallmark of a good librarian, I would
Absolutely.
say. Is that okay to call you a librarian?
You may call me a librarian.
Okay. I don't know. Is that politically correct? I don't know.
Yes, I think it is.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you about an award that the Bridgeton Library received last October from the Bridgeton Area Chamber of Commerce. And it was the Hometown Hero
yes,
Community.
Gary F. Zimmerman. Woo! Sorry, I had to cut you off just to say his name.
Exactly.
Gary. Now, of course, I didn't know who the heck he was when somebody called me and said, "Hey, do you want to accept this award?" And I was like, "Well, who's Gary F. Zimmerman?" And then as I learned about him and his life's work in the community, I realized what an honor it was for this library to be presented with that Community Leadership Award.
100%. And I heard you speak when you accepted the award, and it was just wonderful. I was so mad I didn't have a recorder at the time in my hand. So maybe you can just share some of the things that you shared with the audience that night.
I suppose I just wanted to big up the library and tout the things that we do here for the community, even though, you know, our budget is pretty small and our building is sort of falling apart and we don't have that much of a staff because we can't afford it. So I was just trying to go around those issues to present what we've managed to do despite those things. And, you know, with a great and dedicated staff, what you could do, really achieve anything for people that want to see this library survive and thrive. And I'm nothing if not a Toastmaster. I pretty much made that speech up on the spot with a couple of like keywords on some index cards. I don't mind speaking in front of folks if I think I know what I'm talking about, and if I think that they're interested in what I'm talking about. It's always good to take a read on your audience. Wake up, ma'am.
No, I think the sentiments that you shared about the library and its impact on you, its impact on the community at large, were very heartfelt and very well received. So congratulations, a few months late,
Thank you
for receiving that award on behalf of the Bridgeton Free Public Library.
I got some good hugs after I spoke. I was like, all right, I did good.
I bet you did. So How does the library get its funding?
Okay. Well, we have something called a 1/3 mill. What's that? It's a formula by which we receive mandatory funding from the tax base, the property tax base here in Bridgeton. Now, 1/3 mill does not mean 1/3 of $1 million. It's a formula and a percentage, and we receive, not much more. A lot less than 1/3 mill, I'm going to tell you right now. And we also apply for state aid, which is good funding. And I apply for a couple of other grants that brings us money so that we can have this programming. For example, we gracefully and gratefully receive monies from the Community Development Block Grant, the CDBG, which is here in Bridgeton. And also, as part of the county, we very gratefully receive funding from the CCC and HC, Cumberland County Commission.
Cultural and Heritage
Cultural and
Commission.
Heritage.
In fact,
Thank you.
As did the Bridgeton
You're not
Beacon.
just an acronym.
As did the Bridgeton Beacon, and we are also
Yeah.
so very grateful for them.
Yeah, the CCC and HC.
Mhm.
And a big shout out to Omari and Matt, because they recognize, our value. And it's been wonderful working with them. And it's been a great lesson for me for grant writing.
Well, and this interview is part of a series that we're doing at the Bridgeton Beacon on the arts in the Cumberland County area, and how many, that the arts are alive, and certainly reading and books and this library are all part of that, which is, I have a very soft spot in my heart for the Bridgeton Library. I came here a lot as a young girl. My grandfather, Bob McCormick, was instrumental with the library many, many years ago. And so you probably have books floating around this library that have he had a habit of giving a little penciled review on the inside
Nice.
cover of paperbacks that he would read. So if you ever come across RPM with a little notation, that's my grandfather.
That's your grandfather.
But
that's wonderful.
Yeah, so I love the library, and this was
And it's
something
the
that I
same
wanted to.
as when you came for the first time.
It is very, very much the same. But
We're in a time warp.
But you know what?
I'm happy to be so.
I think that there are even more programs now than there were then, that's why I really wanted to speak with you, so we can help get the word out, so that we can get more people to come in,
Absolutely.
more people to see all the things that you're doing. I'm asking everyone who's listening to this interview to share it. Come stop
please.
in, get your library card. Do people still have library cards?
Yes, they do.
Come in, get your library card, take a book out, and tell your friends, and contribute if at all possible. I have a Bridgeton Library hat that my brother gave me, and I see downstairs that you still have some more for sale.
We
and
do.
bags
Our friends of our library, the Friends of the Library, do marvelous things. We just had a book sale. They have a plant sale coming up in May. We have another book sale in.
So I'm going to interrupt you. Tell me what the Friends of the Library are.
The Friends of the Library. Well, here's an example. I worked in Bergen County. Bergen County has 74 libraries. Cumberland County has 4 libraries. Each of the libraries in Bergen County has a Friends of the Library. They're like a little bit of an ancillary group of people that support the library and do things to bring money to the library, fundraising, outside events. And it's a very strong community up in Bergen County. Our Friends of the Library are lovely folks that have been here for decades. They're all like SEPTA and octogenarians.
Is it part of the library?
No,
is the
it's
library
not.
Okay.
It's not an official part of the library. It's like a club of supporters that love us and love the library and realize the importance of the library so much that they put on different fundraisers throughout the course of the year to donate money to us for things that we need. Supplies and equipment and programs and books and
so I saw some ladies downstairs last week. I think they were selling jewelry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything that they can sell to then pass on to their fund that, we request from them. Hey, we need a new cash register. Hey, we need, new children's books. Hey, we need some chairs. they're very gracious and very hardworking, very dedicated, very loyal, and love the library. And we'd like an infusion of new members to that friends group, because these folks are, getting older, and they work so hard, and they all have, their own lives. So we need some new friends. Let me just mention a couple of things that are happening that you can come and support. For example, on Saturday, March 16th, we're having a Maker's Day here at the library, and that's from 9:30 to 12:30 p.m. And that's, I'm not sure, I think there's going to be a 3D printer and a thing to make bookmarks with, and just as kind of come on and design bookmarks and stamps, and choose from pre-made graphic layouts. Bring a photo or a flash drive if you want a photo on a flash drive, and we could import that onto something. The same day, Harriet Tubman is coming to the library. What? She rose from the dead. That's right, folks. And she's coming to the library. A wonderful lady named Michelle Washington Wilson embodies Harriet Tubman in a very deep and spiritual and lovely way. And she's going to be presenting a program called Tales from the Trails. And that's from 1:30 to 2:30 on Saturday, March 16th, right after the Maker's Day. And it's for adults and also kids 11 and up. And if you want to support the Friends are having a wonderful concert called from a lovely lady named Zoe Mulford. That concert is going to be brought to you on Sunday, April 7th. Hold on, I lost my picture.
And I actually took a picture of that flyer when I was walking in, because I thought that would be really kind of neat to promote. Sunday,
April 7th, 2:00, and it's here. And Zoe Mulford is awesome. She is an American songwriter whose former hometowns include Durham, North Carolina, Maryland, and she lives in Swarthmore and in Manchester, England. Her new album, Small Brown Birds, is available on CD Baby, iTunes, Amazon, many other online sources. And there's we have a poster up with one of those, what is that called, those things?
Oh, yes, the QR code.
A QR code. Mm-hmm. I have so many things in my head. I can only retain so much information.
We will share that QR code with our listeners so they can check it out.
If you scan that QR code, you go right to her YouTube channel. And just 2 more programs, if you don't mind. Sorry, I know I'm taking up a lot of time.
No, please. That's what we're here for.
We're having, this is going to be our 3rd year for this as well, but it goes back to something called the Gold Brush Art Awards, but it's sort of modified since COVID. We're having a youth art showcase. Area art teachers from K to 12 drop off art from their students here, and we display it at the library throughout the months of April and May. And we're having a kickoff reception on Wednesday, April 3rd, from 4:30 to 6 p.m. You're invited to come on, have some snacks, look at some kids' wonderful art. And last year was a great event, and we're hoping that this year becomes a great event as well. And ongoing, we have our teen poetry competition. This, again, I started this about 4 years ago. So this is the first one was prose and poetry, but this is the 3rd year of just poetry. And I reach out to Bridgeton High School, to Cumberland Regional High School, tweens and teens, writing poetry, submitting it to me, and we print it up in a beautiful little booklet with lovely graphics, and all the teens get a copy of this booklet, so their poetry is actually published.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's so wonderful.
Published by us, produced by me, published by us. There's 2 books downstairs. I'd like to give them to you so that you have copies on hand. And that poetry contest submitted to me, and there's a submission form. All that information is on our website. You can go there, download the submission form, and the poems, up to 5 poems, are due, plus the completed submission form, at the end of April. So April 30th is the deadline, because then it takes me some time to get that together, turn it around, get it to the printing company, and have it back in time. And then we have a party. Ooh.
That is wonderful.
We have an awards party.
Do you have the date for that yet or not?
I don't have a date
Okay.
for the awards
We'll
party.
keep an eye out on all of these activities, and I'll try to come back and get some video and
Hooray.
continue to share all the great things that the
Thank
Bridgeton
you.
Library is doing, thanks to you, Adaria, and all of your
Yes, just me. Nobody else,
volunteers.
just me.
And I
Why
was
do you think we won an award? No, I'm kidding.
I was speaking with Minerva Alvarado, and I told her that I was interviewing you, and
Good.
she asked to send her regards, and we want to
My
promote.
regards to Broadway. See, I'm just really a frustrated actor. I should be on the stage or screen somewhere, but here I am in a library in Bridgeton. So what are you going to do?
Your
maybe a stand-up comedian.
Your talents are being put to very, very good use. That is for sure, no doubt.
And thank you so much for being interested enough in us to have me speak on it and speak
Well, I'd love to
about
come
our
back.
library.
I mean, I think we should have, you could be a regular contributor
Oh, that would
to
be
the Bridgeton Beacon.
That's right.
Perhaps we could do this on a regular basis.
What's happening at the library for the month of blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. You could have your own channel, your own show.
Oh,
You think of a good name and we'll make it happen.
Sounds
So
good.
I've been speaking here today with Adaria Armstrong, Director of Youth Services here at the Bridgeton Free Public Library, who has been sharing with us all of the wonderful things that she and the entire staff have been doing here at the library, and all of the things to come. Did you mention the plant sale? I remember you had a plant sale before. Do you have a plant sale this year too?
We're going to have a plant sale. I briefly touched on it.
Okay.
That's through Friends of the Library. It's
Okay.
going to be sometime in May. We don't have a definite
All right.
date yet, but just stay tuned to our Facebook and our website, and you'll have all the good info.
Okay, and I can't end without asking you, favorite author,
Dun, dun, dun.
book recommendation. We could do a monthly book recommendation depending upon ages. I don't want to put you on the spot
Don't
here,
put me
but
on the spot now.
Yeah.
Well,
or you can
know.
think about it and I can share it in the comments.
Oh,
But
that would be cool. Let me think
Okay.
about it. But I adore my historical fiction. I also really adore backstory. So I'm really good. I love biographies. I love autobiographies, especially anything about music.
truth is stranger than fiction, I've always said.
It certainly is.
Great. Well, thank you again for spending the time to speak with me today. I'd love to have you come back.
I'd love to come back.
All right, and I'll let you do the sign off.
All right. You've been listening to Meg and Adaria live from 1816 room at the Bridgeton Library. And we hope to see you here, and we hope to see you again. Thank you so much.
Funding has been made possible in part by the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, Department of State, New Jersey Historical Commission, Department of State, and the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners through the Cumberland County Cultural and Heritage Commission.